You've used your action. What do you want to do? I think I'll do a bonus section and get an RPG boon. On today's RPG Boons, we're going to talk about more examples of how to use armor class for roleplay during your table games. Stay tuned. Hello, everybody. Welcome to RPG Boons, where we talk about everything that is RPG and how everything is RP. I am Don Franco 3, the busy person's GM, the one man army. One thing you may have noticed from my last video is it's not scripted. Now, that's because I'm a busy person. So please forgive me if I miss little details, because I really don't have time to go back and fix that stuff. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. Okay, that's not entirely true. Today, we're going to go back and talk a little bit more about how you can use armor class for your roleplay at your table. So, for today's RPG boons, we have a bonus boon, and we're going to take a little bit closer look at some examples of heroes and monsters to better improve your table experience for your players and for you so you do not get GM, DM burnout. If you haven't had a chance, I really recommend you go back and look at that previous video so you can see how we broke down those ability scores and made those role playing for armor class so you can improve your combat experience for your players and for you. But for right now, let's take a quick look again for more examples of how you can use AC as a RP for your table. Let's take a look. Okay, so in the previous video, we went through the player's handbook and looked how dexterity, constitution, and wisdom can be used as a RP experience for your players during combat. Dexterity being the ability of you to move quickly during combat, constitution being your ability to roll with the punch during combat, and wisdom is your ability to gauge the distance of your enemy and staying in the perimeter of the melee attack, essentially helping you avoid the attack. Let's continue. So here I'm illustrating very generically how this could be done. Let's look at dexterity. The hero's going side to side. This is something we've seen Bruce Lee do in many of his movies. He's moving side to side, making it more difficult for enemies to hit him. For constitution, we can see our hero is moving back just a little bit, essentially absorbing that hit or reducing its ability to have a strong impact on the hero. For wisdom, we can see our hero is essentially moving back away from the enemy's swing, allowing him to stay a safe distance away from the attack. And that's how you could RP those ability scores for your table. Now let's continue. In the previous video, we also took a standard array of attributes, used a human as the race, then created a base AC and added all those ability modifiers, dexterity, con, and wisdom. What you may have known or already known or discovered is at any given time, you cannot use 3 ability scores to impact your armor class. So, what I thought we should do is look at some real world examples in this next slide. What we're looking at here is level 4 barbarian, a level 4 monk, a barbarian that is half orc, a monk that is wood elf. Why? Because we're power gaming. That's what we do. So the barbarian's going to have a +2 to his dexterity. We're going to have a +4 to that constitution to get those hit points really high. And now we can apply those modifiers to our AC and use those as RP. So on the table right below for the barbarian, we can see a 9 is a miss, 10, 11, 12 avoids the hit, 13, 14, 15 rolls with the attack, and a 16, the barbarian takes damage. For the monk, has a +4 dexterity bonus, +3 wisdom bonus. Now again, table below, 9 misses, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 avoids the hit, and a 15 and 16, that monk is just outside of the range of those attacks. Let's look at armor class again. We looked at light armor, medium armor, and heavy armor. And of course, with heavy armor, you get no dexterity modifier because that armor is way too heavy. For medium, you get a maximum of 2. And for light armor, you can essentially move as much as you want while wearing that armor. But let's focus on that plate armor. The player's going to have a base AC of 18. He can't use his dexterity modifier, but he can have a shield in his hand. This is going to give him an 18 base, +2 to that. It's going to give him a 20. Now to role play that, Here on the right, we can look at the table. A 9 or less is going to miss. 10, all the way up to 17, deflecting off of that armor, bouncing off of that armor. No effects happening. On an 18 or 19, you can say your hero raises up that shield, blocks it hit. On an 20, they take damage because we're able to either pierce the armor or get through some of those cracks in the armor. Now, let's apply this to an actual table that we can realistically look at or give to a player if they're really interested in creating their own RP experience. You can do this for yourself or give it to a player. So here in this table, let's not really think about the modifiers, but let's just assume there's a plus something where you move quickly and a plus something where you roll with an attack. Now you can use those numbers when they come up during the attack roll as an RP. For your monk, we're saying that a safe distance from your enemy is going to be important. Now we're going to look at a case of armor when you still might have the ability to apply your dexterity modifier to it. But this might be too much for your table. So what do I say? I say just wing it. You don't have to apply that RP to a specific number that is rolled. However, you might want to think about if you're dealing with a barbarian or a monk, how you can RP that for them. Now, let's go take a look at some monsters and try to see if we can get a little more information out of those stat blocks so we can use those as RP for your players. And at the end, we're going to add a little bit of extra bonus boons in there for you. Let's take a look. Okay, very quickly, let's go through some of these monsters because we've already seen at least a couple examples in my previous video. We have a bugbear here with the armor class of 17, wearing chain shirt plus a shield. The chain shirt's going to give you 13 to your base. Shield's going to give you a +2 bonus, and you're going to also have a +2 from your dexterity. That's a 2 +2 from your shield. That's a 4. 4 plus 13, 17. The Githzere monk, armor class of 14. Now we know that a monk gets its unarmored defense from dexterity and wisdom, and we can easily see it's done here. +2 dexterity, +2 from wisdom, add that to 10, that's going to give you a 14. I try to find an example of a barbarian in the monster manual, but could just not find one. All I could find was this gladiator, which clearly got its armor class from wearing studded leather armor, a shield, plus this +2 from dexterity. Now, for a gelatinous cube, it has an armor class of 6. And it has an armor class of 6 because it has a -4 penalty from its dexterity modifier. What does this tell you? This tells you that this gelatinous cube, even though it appears to be a stationary cube most of the time we see it, it's actually wobbling side to side, avoiding damage. It's intelligent enough that it knows that it's being attacked. Why else would it be able to move out of the way? So even with an intelligence of 1, it understands that it's being attacked and could wobble side to side or away so to avoid being hit. Here, the Ankeg has an armor class of 14, but this is interesting, has an 11 while being prone. Now, this is something you shouldn't make completely obvious to your players. However, if your players are able to knock this monster prone, you can choose the player with the highest perception and tell them you notice that the underbelly of this Ankeg appears to be softer than the top half of the Ankeg. Looking at lycanthropy animals, we have a werebear, werewolf, and a wererat. When the werebear is in humanoid form, it has a standard armor class of 10, gets a +1 from its natural armor, probably its hide, when it comes into a bear form or a hybrid form. Similarly, the werewolf has a base armor class of 11. Looks like it has a +1 to dexterity, +1 to the armor when it becomes a wolf or hybrid form. Then we look at the wererat, it always has an armor class of 12. What does this tell you about the RP experience? This is the bonus boon I was talking about. When you look at these lycanthropy animals and then look at all the base scores, this tells you a lot about what these monsters look like in their humanoid form. If you're running lycanthropy in your campaign, you can say you notice that there's a gentleman that seems to be a lot buffer than all the other people, very sturdy, very healthy. And when there is a suspect of who might have the lycanthropy, you can clearly tell the players that you notice that this gentleman here or this gentle lady there has slightly stronger build than the rest of the regular common folk in that town or in that city. So just by looking at these stats, you can use those as part of your RP experience at your table. Now let's look at some other special cases. A will-o-wisp has a 19 armor class, has a +9 modifier to its armor class, telling you that they're quickly moving around and they're very difficult to hit. An Empyrean has an armor class of 22, some that comes from its natural armor and some that comes from dexterity. But there's something else important here. It has an armor class of 22. We know that commoners have no modifiers to their ability scores. So this automatically tells you that no average man has been able to hurt this Empyrean. And that in itself can be part of the RP experience at your table. Looking at a zombie has an armor class of 8, -2 dexterity. That gives it its 8. Because a lot of us have seen zombie movies, and what do those zombies do? They slog around, they move slowly. And this is easy to describe as part of your RP. Next thing I want to do is I want to focus on some of these things down here. Some of these other traits that these monsters have, such as damage immunities and damage resistances. How do you RP those things? So, how can we RP damage immunities or damage resistances? Let's take a look at this stat block. If we look here at the Empyrean, it says Celestial. What does Celestial mean? It means of the sky, otherworldly, essentially being magical. Probably not an alien. So, what can we do for the RP experience? Now, every time players that don't have magical weapons strike the Empyrean, we can say every time you contact the Empyrean with your weapon, you're seeing this rippling energy bursting off of it. That's the magic effect. So, you can do this two ways. You can A, say you hit the monster and it doesn't appear to do anything. Or you can say you hit it with your weapon and you see energy flaring off of that contact point. You see ripples of energy. You see ripples of energy coming off that body. That is exciting, not just hit and it does nothing. Okay, everybody, that was our bonus boon video for the day. I hope it was useful for you. I hope you will consider using some of these tips to improve your RP at your table, how those ability modifiers can be used to improve your RP at the table. In addition, you can look at monster stat blocks, really analyze what those numbers mean, what those things mean in parentheses, what the damage immunities mean, and then use those as part of your RP experience as well at your table. Okay, everyone, I hope the bonus boons were really useful for everybody. We were able to get some more information from those stat blocks as well as really focus in on those armor classes, those ability modifiers, and try to use those for RP. Again, this is Don Franco 3. This is RPG Boons, where we talk about everything that is RPG and how everything is RP. Please hit the subscribe button. Be on the lookout for my next video in the next several days. I hope those were useful tips. I know I use them. I hope you can use them. See you later.